Partners of sleep talkers or sleepwalkers? What gems have you to share? My wife will tell me the next day when I do this. Her favorite story to tell is that she woke up in the middle of the night to find me slowly walking out of our bedroom. Wife. Are you okay? What are you doing? Me. There's somebody downstairs in the kitchen. Unrolling the tinfoil. Wife. Okay. What's your plan? Me. I'm going to stop them. Wife. Shall we get a bit more sleep then both go down together? Me. Okay. And I went back to bed. Subsequent investigations found a small plastic bag on the floor, near my head, being rustled by the movement of the curtain, the window being open. It's really interesting how sometimes subtleties in the environment like this can make their way into our dreams. He farted very loudly and proceeded to say, "You got the wrong guy." My girl woke up one night and said, "Did you find your rocks?" And I asked her what she was talking about and she said, "I don't know. I'm just trying to make conversation." And promptly went back to sleep. She has no recollection of this. Well, you obviously weren't being talkative enough. Not my current partner, but my ex-boyfriend sometimes talks in his sleep, and the funniest story was this one time I was still up reading a book and I hadn't noticed that he was already asleep next to me. Suddenly he bursts out, "Will you just give me the peeping yogurt already? Shannon." In a flawless British accent, and scares the speep out of me. We're both German and none of our first languages include English. We didn't know a Shannon. He's lactose intolerant. My boyfriend woke me up the other day by gently putting his fingers in my mouth, and I kept moving my head out of the way until eventually I was like, "Can you stop that?" He then sounded genuinely upset and asked why I woke him up, as he was having a really nice dream about feeding a deer. Brilliant. Oh my heck. I had something similar happen. I'd gotten up to use the bathroom and our soap is lemon scented. When I had just gotten back to sleep, I woke up to my husband trying to eat my fingers. He said he was dreaming of eating lemon heads. Sigh. My boyfriend either recites postcodes delivery driver or calls the dog in his sleep. So either he is mad no one is responding to his postcode nonsense, or I get a flying 30 kilograms dog to my body. I'd like to imagine that he wakes up and calls the dog just to peep with you. My aunt likes to tell the story about her and my cousin sharing a hotel room one time. My aunt woke up having to pee, and found my cousin sitting up in bed with her arms folded across her abdomen, kind of rocking back and forth and giggling quietly. When my aunt asked her what she was doing, my cousin said, "I'm holding a baby and it has an adult smile." I found this story deeply unsettling. Get the holy water. Once my ex said horse. That's all. Just horse. But with a sense of urgency. The same ex told me I once sat straight up in bed and mumbled, "Jesus. Grandma. You scared the speep out of me." I had been dreaming that I was in bed at night and my grandma, still alive at the time, wandered into the room and stood at the end of the bed with a blank stare. So this one time while my S/O was sleeping, she randomly reaches over and starts to pet my leg softly. When I ask her what she's doing, she looks at me like I'm stupid and says, "What does it look like?" "I'm petting this fluffy baby penguin." Then pauses for a second, pats my leg again and blurts out, "Wait, this isn't a penguin." I have never laughed so hard over someone talking in their sleep. Edit. Thanks for the awards, kind strangers. Fantastic sleep songs with lyrics which are utterly bizarre. My two absolute favorites have been 1. Oh whoa whoa. It's a corner cat. 2. Obey my rules. And you'll always be a country cowboy, repeated about 5 times and finished with a yeah. Corner cat is amazing. That might make it into a song of mine. That was literally it as well. Like a jingle from a TV advert. No context, warning or other words or lyrics whatsoever. Absolutely incredible. My wife started screaming one night that she was lost in the local grocery store. And that no matter where she went she couldn't find her way out. I asked her, has she tried checking out at the cash registers? She then looked at me and said in her most sincere voice, "That's why you are the smartest person I know." And she rolled over and fell back asleep. That's super cute. One night, my boyfriend woke me up in the middle of the night, tapping me on my shoulder. He put his finger on his mouth, whispered shush to me, then pointed at the door and told me I can hear something. Don't move. Predictably, I nearly peed my pants. All the worst possible scenarios crossed my mind. And the moment of silence after he shushed me felt like hours. Then, he started waving his hands and talking about Tetris. The twirlies I don't know. And making sure we don't align. And that's how I learned my boyfriend talks in his sleep. I was watching TV once when my sister came out of her room and shoved her pillow in a kitchen drawer. After that she crossed the living room, opened the front door and said, "They're almost here." She closed the door and went back to her room. It was my first experience with sleepwalking and scared the complete speep out of me. As far as I am aware, that is the only incident she has ever had. Heck yes. Please take a seat. My wife was an avid sleep talker for a long time, and her midnight announcements range from simple single words to elaborate speeches. The ones that really stand out to me are waking up in the middle of the night to her suddenly sitting violently up in bed, throwing back the covers, and screaming, "Tarantula! That will make you very awake. Very quickly." Whispering my name repeatedly, which woke me up so she could share in a hushed, cautious voice, "There is an alligator in here." When I expressed my concern playing along, she told me, still whispering, that it's okay. It has been here before. But my all-time favorite was when, from her perspective as she later explained, she was dreaming that I was playfully sneaking up on her and she saw me and was calling me on it. From my perspective, my wife sat up in the middle of the night, starting into the darkest corner of the room, and said repeatedly in a soft sing-song voice, "I see you." My flipping blood froze. TLDR. My wife is terrifying. Edit 1. Thanks for the awards. I am glad this has managed to make some people laugh/cry at work. Okay, the last one is terrifying. My grandfather was a hard sleep talker. My grandmother has a funny story. One day my grandfather while sleeping was saying, "Do I punch this asshole?" My grandmother replayed, "Yeah, punch him." Then my grandfather in his sleep punched her. I woke up one night when my husband started flailing around in the bed. It shocked me and I shouted, "What's wrong?" Then he punched me in the face. I yelled out and started crying. Then he woke up and shouted, "What's wrong?" He dreamt he was being chased and then turned round and punched them. My mum, who is in her 80s, often falls asleep in her chair while I'm visiting her. She sleep eats. Not real food, but she goes through the motions of holding a plate and bringing food to her mouth. It's hilarious watching her. I asked her once if it was nice and she said yes, it's very tasty. Edit to thank folks for the awards. The part about your mom honestly made my heart melt. Ex-roommate talked in his sleep. Once, he cried out, "No, Gandalf! Don't tempt me, Frodo." I'm the sleep talker here. Got this from my wife the next morning. Me. Sits bolt upright, they're coming. Everything's ready. Wife. Sleepily, huh? Me. They're coming. Everything's ready. Wife. They're coming. Me. Wife. But everything's ready? Me. Yes. Wife. Sounds like we're okay then. Me. Comically flops back down and instantly goes back to sleep. Edit. Formatting. I really like the flow of this conversation, and I know that this is completely unrelated, but the reason it stands out to me is because this is exactly how you're supposed to respond to someone who's delusional or someone who has Alzheimer's or dementia. There's no reason to challenge what they say or to make them explain themselves or to say they're wrong. Just say something calming to reassure them. But everything's ready? Sounds like we're okay then. If you were speaking to someone with severe delusions or advanced aging issues, this would be textbook and beautifully done. Edit. Since people are noticing this, I thought I would add that after giving it some thought, you don't have to be extremely delusional for this flow of conversation to work well and be very helpful. I experience mild delusion when my mania increases to psychosis. I have bipolar too. When it's at its absolute worst, I might have a thought like, oh, it's a beautiful day outside today, it must have been because of that song I listened to earlier, mildly assuming my taste in music has directed the weather for the day. If I made a comment about that out loud and someone said to me that's impossible and you're delusional, it would make me feel highly embarrassed and also make me question reality for a moment, which is extremely uncomfortable and unsettling. And completely unnecessary unless I'm about to do something stupid. I used to sit long hours with at-risk, mostly dementia and schizophrenia patients in a hospital. As per my job duties. What you say is totally true. Because confrontation leads to agitation. I remember one sweet older woman I sat with. Who had schizophrenia? I'm not sure. And she would say some random things. I'd respond with pretty random but thematic things. She'd move the theme a bit and say more random stuff on that newish theme. I'd do the same. She'd raise a drawing of Snoopy in the air. I'd exclaim, "Snoopy." We'd repeat. Working with an older man with dementia, who used to be an English teacher. We would give him papers to grade and blankets to fold. When he was done folding a blanket, he'd move on to another. And I'd just mess up that blanket again and ask him to fold it when he was done with the other one. It seems mean. But it isn't. Compassion takes on a lot forms. And some of those forms don't even resemble compassion. But that's exactly what they are. If that man runs out of blankets to fold, or papers to grade, you know what he does next? He attempts to break out of his hospital room, go out the nearest exit, and combat anyone who tries to stop him.